Good evening, Ronnie. I believe that we are live.
I
How
think
is
we are. Good evening, Yasheka. How are we doing? And good evening, today in Discussions World. Hope everybody's doing well themselves this July.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, so while I go ahead and try to find us online, welcome everybody to the Ronnie and Yasheka's dating discussion, where Ronnie and I talk about some of the issues that are going on in today's world of dating. And so we'll be back after we do our little brief commercial in 30 seconds.
Calling your phone, why you not hitting me back? Please just pick up, don't wanna go tit for tat. Arguing on versus this, then it's that. Killing my vibe, now I'm writing this rap. This is not another love song, girl, you got me.
All right, Ronnie, we are back. We are back. And I'm still not finding us online to make sure that, and if those of you who are
Hmm.
following us into the room, understand that we are streaming to use the StreamYard to Facebook as well as YouTube. So if you don't catch it, all of it here on YouTube, on Facebook, you can always go to YouTube and check out the rest of it. So let's get started. Today, we are talking about discovering celibacy during dating. Now, this is going to be, in my opinion, a very touchy feely topic. And before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, because we are using StreamYard, make sure to allow StreamYard access to you. So when you make a comment or you want to chat with us, we can know who you are and where you're coming in from. And so, as I was saying, Ronnie, let's get into this discussion. Yeah, we're talking about dating, or excuse me, discovering celibacy during dating. And this is I don't even know where to start with it. I'm hearing a lot of it, right? And I'm not, and because I don't talk to men and ask them about if they're celibate, right? I never ask the man that, because a lot of times a woman, what I'll discover, will tell you that she's living a life of celibacy before you even ask. And so I don't know if that's something men are doing, but I know that I'm hearing it in the streets of women. And I myself even decided that I wanted to go on a celibacy um journey. Now I don't know how that's going, and that's for another time. But yeah, but I mean, I think sometimes we use it as a catch-all. Well, let's talk about it. Right? Let's talk. About it. So, discovering celibacy during dating.
Okay. Well, okay. So I'm just going to listen and repeat back to what you just said, and how men hear this. If there's one thing I really truly have to help women with is, and see, this is where when women tell other women don't take advice or listen to men, I'm like, well, unless you're going after a woman, you definitely need to listen. So you're on a journey and you don't know how it's going. It's either going according to plan or it's not.
Mhm.
And so men have this discussion a lot for two reasons. And I'm sure there may be some gentlemen who may chime in later and say there are others. One, there are more men than are realized and given credit for that are on a celibate journey. And we all know that a lot of people tend to take that journey because it goes along with the spiritual journey.
Mhm.
So, born again, found Allah, or whatever that may be, in terms of some form of organized religion. Others is because they really understand that they don't know themselves yet, or have the control and discipline within themselves. And so what happens is that they make decisions that are usually not in their best interest of them. And of course, it affects the other person. And men know this. Also, there are those men who understand that, well, look, we're talking about either intentional men or men who are not as intentional. In other words, they may be intentional, they're just trying to get some. And this is something that I say, fellas, let me explain something to you. If you are going to be on a celibate journey, A, if you're online dating, put that in the profile. And some will fight and say, no, this is something I'll go um, and explain over the first or second date. I'm like, why? Why? And they never have a good answer, at least what I think is a solid answer. It's kind of, they still not sure they want to be or not. If you are, stand on it. Because if there's one thing a man or woman is looking for in a man or woman is discipline. So when we talk about consistency, well, that involves discipline as well. So you put that in your profile because what you want to do is make sure that celibate people date celibate people. Now, of course, there are going to be those who say, well, Ron, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Well, it may not, but see, here's what you tend to run into. Someone's trying to convince the other to go their route. And what you end up with is someone going against what they really had planned to do. And then they regret doing it and then an implosive relationship. So it's challenging enough to be celibate as a woman and as a man. But now you're going to put yourself in a position who's not practicing celibacy and now trying to curtail the urges that may come along with that. So men do discuss this quite a bit, like I said, for different reasons.
Okay. I don't even know. I don't even know where to jump in at. You said a lot. I will have to agree with you that when a person does choose a celibacy journey, sometimes that is because they're trying to get more in tune with who they are and understand who they are, what they need, and things like that, right? But also, I think that being celibate allows you to not blur the lines because sometimes we can get into situations, whether
I
it's
agree.
a relationship or a situationship or whatever, and once you put sex into it, it kind of blurs the lines because for some people, right? And I mean, whether it be man or woman, I don't know, but I know that sometimes people will say, okay, these are my thresholds of when I'm in a relationship with someone. And so they'll set up these targets, and once they meet them, then they're thinking that they're in a relationship with that person. And for many people, sex is one of those marks, right? Once I've had sex with a person, because okay, we dated, we talked on the phone, we went out, we've done whatever. Now, once I've crossed that line with them, and I've been intimate with them, not just the petty kissing and things where I've had sex with them. Now I look at it like, okay, this person and I are on to something more. And so sometimes it may not be the other person's mark on the wall. You understand what I'm saying? And so I've noticed that when talking to people, that because they don't really understand or they really can't grasp um, how someone is not where they are in their journey, they've chosen to take sex out of it and choose the celibacy route, then that way they're focused on, is instead of me looking at that mark on the wall. You know what I mean? Then that way I can concentrate on exactly what that person and I are doing and if we're on the same journey. Because if we're not, then that means that I can go somewhere else. But once you start getting sex into it, it kind of skews the pot a little bit, kind of, taint it a little bit. And so that's why a lot of people are on the celibacy journey. But I mean, at this point, it's sometimes I, as a woman, find it kind of confusing, especially when I see a person who have been through certain things or maybe have children and things like that, and so now they're on the celibacy journey, and you have to respect that. But I often wonder for each person what really drove them to be that way,
Right.
especially when you have people with children and small children
Right.
and things like that. And for each person, I know it's a different struggle. It's a different thing that they're going through, and so they have to find it within themselves. And one of the things that they do it is saying that I'm going to wean myself or I'm not going to engage in sexual activities. But in terms of dating, how is that affecting the dating world? I did hear you say that that if you are on a celibate journey, choose someone that's celibate with you. But I want to believe that there aren't a lot of men that's on the celibate journey. I'm not saying there aren't any, but in terms of here we are, there's so many things that we're looking for in a mate. Whether it be, he respects his mama. He lives in my city. He make this amount of money. He doesn't have this, and so now you got, okay, I need to find somebody to celebrate with me. Those add another layer of trying to find a person, your person. So in terms of dating, um, how's that looking out there in the world in terms of dating?
I believe, again, there are more men than are given credit for that are on a celibate journey. And here's something else. Let me say this, ladies, and I know it may be a little challenging to swallow, but it is true. So I'm going to speak again. You hear me use the word intentional 500 gazillion times. I'm going to continue to use that because these are the type of men that I speak to, and I speak to non who, based on intention. When I say intention, I mean intention for building a relationship, from dating to relationship and walking down the aisle. There are those men, and let's just say they were not on a celibate journey and they met someone that is. Ring enough of his bells in that way, mentally, emotionally, some spiritually, or whatever, he will wait. He will. Not because of you, but because he feels that the return, and maybe because you've given him something to think about. Because if there's one thing, and Yashika, I'm going to reach out to this one scientist, because what I really find is that many men and women don't know how powerful sex is and how it really alters the body physiology. This is why when you hear people talk about they can't be friends with benefits, because someone's going to give, someone's going to feel something at some point. And this scientist, literally, I mean, he studies the body and talks about this in depth. It really, outside of the endorphins and the dopamines and things of this nature, like you receive when you are working out or just whatever things that you're, hell, even having your favorite dessert, it opens the body to a space that, this is again lack of judgment. You make decisions that maybe not be in your best interest, or that attraction to the person you know damn well is not for you, but the sexual attraction to that person ends you up in the bed with this person. So yes, there are men that are celibate and they practice celibacy to the fullest. Then there are others who don't. And just how it is, and this is when I say, when you make, especially to the people I've spoken to who are on this journey, it's like as soon as you make the decision, the tests come. You meet the superfine man, the superfine woman, and your things are going good, and you just figure, oh, what the hell, this may be the one, and you don't want to take a chance in losing this person. It could really set you back. It can really set you back. But if you are a man who is not on a celibate journey, when you meet that woman who is, based on how things go, he would wait. He would wait. If he really sees that you are the one. Now, here's the thing, gentlemen. The reason I say celibacy dates celibacy, because being disciplined is hard enough as it is. It really is. Just as if you're trying to discipline in terms of working out, discipline in terms of that diet or a new eating program, there's enough of the challenges. Sexual attraction is a struggle. It is a challenge. And so it's best to have someone that you can relate to going down that road. So I know I covered a couple of things, Yashika, but excuse me, I hope that I covered and answered the point that you were asking for from men.
I want to play devil's advocate for a minute because
Okay.
I can honestly say that I've been on both sides, right? I've been on the side where you go after, when you're attracted to someone, you're attracted to them for things other than the sexual aspect of it, right? whether it be their mind, their spirit, their soul, whatever, right? But then you don't have a sexual connection with that person. So to me, those are still like roads to disaster, for lack of a better word. And then you might have this person over here where you have this strong connection with them sexually, but then you don't know if you bond everywhere else. And my point that I'm making is, who's to say which is right or wrong, right? Because we always say that you need more than just the physical. But for me, right, and I only can speak from my perspective, that is one of my top three: the physical aspect, or the sexual aspect, or the sexual attraction aspect. So even when I'm dating someone, before we go to the next level of trying to see if it's going to go to the next level, I need to be intimate with them, because I need to know if we connect that way. Because if we don't, then there's something missing. And unfortunately, I've been through, I've had situations where it didn't mesh, and I was okay with it because I have to have that connection in a person, right? So celibacy is good, but I feel like a lot of times we may get so caught up in that until we're wasting time. Now, if you are a person that you know for sure that you've been doing some things that you want to kind of pull back on or whatever, then I understand that. But for people, most people, for me, for people in my age group, for people that I've talked to, that's important. And there are people who say, well, I have met people where they say that part doesn't matter to them. But some of those people are still healing, right? And so for them, they don't look at sex the same way someone else might look at sex because of maybe some things that has happened. And so I just believe that it's never black or white, when it comes to that. When it comes to any of it, I just don't believe it's black or white.
I never want to make it sound as though it is, but I know people who have they have a pattern of having great sex with, one, two, three, what the relationships that they're dating with. So the sex is phenomenal, and everything else is horrific. And so that person then's the question, okay, so then why am I attracted to this type of man or this type of woman? And see, this is when you go deeper, because now, again, just because you have 3 to 7 things that are great about this person doesn't still mean you should be with that person. So there are people who have great sex and maybe 1 or 2 other things, but the rest that really counts, that will take it over the edge, is non-existent. So I find that there are those who put too much emphasis on the sexual, because I'm all about sexual attraction. I make no mistake about it. I'm all about sexual attraction and making sure that some compatibility and making sure that's there. I will listen. Sex is important to Ronnie Walker. Let me make this clear right now. But I do understand, and I've been in situations personally. I've had great sex with people that I found out were not someone I would want to marry. So whether that happened 3 months, 6 months, whatever, down, 1 week, or whatever the case may be, that does happen. And then you find that the great sex, through that, you overlooked other things that damn near may be more important to building a future with that person. And then that sometimes relates itself, goes into another relationship and then to another relationship. And then you got to find out, okay, maybe I'm going into this too soon, into the sex part too soon. And then, as opposed to looking at the other aspects of this person, and then, yes, the sex will then come. But really, you're really going to have to take some sort of stock into how you're approaching dating and the pattern in which you're choosing now. Okay, at what point are we going to have this discussion, and then we're going to be intimate? Because if you're having the same pattern and meeting the same type of person, then it doesn't serve the purpose. Yeah, great. You have some great sexual experiences. Whoop the whoop. But if what you want is a lifelong commitment, then you may have to adjust how you approach the part of sex in dating.
Yeah, I can see how some people who have an issue with that would definitely have to do that. But I think that it's it seems to be something that's catching on. So I don't know if this is something that we're going through as people. Has if it's been around for a long time, where it's because it just seems like there's a big group of people who are saying, you know what, I'm choosing this over that, and I'm not really sure if it's just, you know, something that we're doing now or if it's, and then again, I think it's just each individual person's journey, but it just seems like a lot of people are, um, and for me, like I said, I feel that um, that part of a relationship is important. So I'm not going to personally get into a relationship with anybody. Once we hit like the 3 or 4 month mark, the sexual attraction has to be there. And um, I feel like at that point, even Steve Harvey says, what is a 90-day rule? I think he even has a 90 days. So once we get into that third or fourth month, it has to be there. If it's not, then I feel like that's something that you can't make happen. And this is just my opinion. When terms of trying to get on the same sheet of music with a person. So say for example, I'm dating someone and they like seafood, whereas that I prefer to be, vegan, whatever, right? You can find a way to balance that out, right? Same thing with, one person isn't good with their money and the other person is in terms of investing and saving. You can balance that out. Does it cause rip in a relationship? Absolutely. But all things cause rift in a relationship if they're not handled accordingly. But I just think that some things cannot be created. When you're dating someone and like for example, you like two different styles of music, you know, there's compromise to be made there. You can figure out a way to compromise on music or where we spend our holidays or how we what kind of school our kids go to. Certain things can be compromised on. But when terms of sexual attraction, I don't think that's something that can be compromised on. So when I think about people who are at the age, in that stage where they're choosing celibacy, it makes me think of a guy who discovered Buddhism, right? I can't remember what his name is, but I remember when I studied religion and when I was getting my master's degree, when he said that he took one of the things from other religions, not to mention other religion, but one of the things that they do is that they do a where they don't eat, they fast for so many days. So the guy who went on this journey, he decided to implement that in discovering something different. And so he was in the woods and he didn't eat. And so after a while, because he was fasting, because he thought that's what he needed to do in order to see what it was he needed to see. But then he came to his mind and said, well, if I'm fasting, I'm not thinking clearly because my body is starving and my mind is not clear because I need one to be able to function with the other. So I don't know if it's real or not, simply because my body and mind are not in sync with one another. And so I see that in the same way. In other words, if a person is on a celibate journey and they get into a relationship with somebody, do they know? Because sometimes when you're missing something, you don't know if it's good or bad because all you know is that this is all you've had. And so you kind of that way the lines is blurred too. So I say all that to say this. I believe that for each individual person that's on that journey, you know, they have to be clear about why they are on that journey. Because if they're not, the lines can be blurred either way. Because you can make decisions based on necessity. You can make decisions based on, you feel like you need it, right? Because you ain't had it in a while. So you sometimes will blur the lines that way too. So anybody who's on that journey, they have to make sure when myself on my journey of celibacy, I knew why I was doing it. I knew exactly why I was doing it. So for me, it was intentional. It was very much intentional. And so I think everybody else needs to make sure that when they're doing it, they set intentions. And so in terms of dating, I don't think it's a problem with dating. I don't because yeah, I don't.
I don't think it should be. You know, I talk to people, and I'm sure you do as well, Yashika, those who are more, the quote unquote Christians, who are more really based on religion, and then there are those who are, like I said, there are different reasons that people do this. I know for men that are not, especially because I hear it on different platforms as well. Women now all of a sudden now on this, we hear it more from women who are calling into these shows or on these podcasts or whatever, and they're now on this, and so men automatically think, okay, is she really sincere? And there are those men who will test you to see if you are, because they all had experience usually with a woman who said they're on a journey, and then for whatever reason they weren't with them. And so you speak to enough men and you'll hear these stories. And the man automatically figures that, okay, either A, she's not disciplined, or B, she was just trying to say that to see how far she can go with me. Again, the stories vary. But to your point, I strongly believe that you need to be intentional, that when you're going to be on this journey, you know why. And when asked, you without stutter explain your position. And trust me, if that is the energy that you're in, the man, whether he is practicing celibacy or not, he will honor and respect your decision. And then he will have to make a decision if he's not, that, okay, look, I'm not on the celibate journey and I don't feel like I want to dishonor her journey in that. So I'm going to dismiss myself from this date or any future date. Or again, based on how the conversation may go, he may decide, you know what, I never considered this, but you know what, let's see how far this goes. Again, it's a live wire. It's a live wire. It's a high wire. And so, being that I take the stand in dating that you want to do everything you can to put the odds in your favor, if you're celibate, look for those that are celibate as well. And because again, fighting the urges, the temptations, the going to dinner, if you decide to go on a vacation or whatever the case may be, the men talk about it. We see her on the beach with the bikini and, the cleavage and all of this, and how that all plays into that. Then after that, you're going for dinner and she showers, changes, and then, you're looking at her and all made up. All of this plays into this. Now, if you're in the same room, that's another obstacle. Double bed, single bed. All right, then I would say, well, then what about separate rooms? It's expensive. Well, again, we're talking about putting the odds in your favor that something is not going to happen. So that doesn't mean if you're celibate, you don't have fun, but just be real honest about that path, because you will be tempted, period, end of story. And so again, be clear on that, so that when while you're clear on that, you can take on the challenges when they come, because they will come, and just handle it in a way that, okay, no one feels slighted or no one feels deceived. So that's my thought on that.
Okay. Well, I listen, like I said, for everybody that is on that journey, um, it's not an easy journey. It's definitely not an easy journey because
I agree.
I mean, for anybody, it's not an easy journey,
I
especially if
agree.
it's something that you are used to doing. If you do have an active life as an adult, and you're used to it. It's just like anything else. If you all of a sudden stop eating, sugars and everything, you're gonna feel the effects. You know what I mean? And so this is no different. But I just want, for me, I want people to just have an understanding of why they do things, right? And don't just do it because you think it's the right thing to do. Understand why you're doing it. And to each his own. Definitely to each his own. But
Absolutely.
that's that. But before we wrap it up, Ronnie, I wanted to talk to you about a post that I did the other day. Um, but before, let me say this in terms of dating. I think I did say I want to go back to that because I want to make sure we wrap up that part of a discovering celibacy while dating. I don't think that it does affect the dating world. I really don't, because um, I just think that it sounds good. For those who are really, really, really into it, then those are the ones who are into it. But for some people, it's just kind of, it's kind of like, one day I eat pork and another day I don't. You know what I mean? It's just for some people, it is what it is. I think that it does not affect dating because of the fact that when people hear that, I think it's such a term that's being used nowadays. I think that when your potential suitors hear it, it doesn't really register sometimes with them because they look at it as, you know what, I heard what they said, but when time comes, it is what it is, and we'll test the waters then. And so I think that when you mentioned earlier about putting it in a dating profile, um, I don't know if I can get around that because I feel that that's too much information. That's literally too much information for me. I wouldn't put that in a dating profile.
I,
But there are people that may do it. And for you, if you had a dating profile, that might work for you. But for me personally, I wouldn't do it and I wouldn't advise my clients to do it. That's just
yeah,
me.
I'm just, again, and I've always said this to people: date how you choose a date, share what you choose to share. It's just I've spoken to enough people that they ask the question, Ron, why didn't they share this before? Because again, maybe it's just bad on everyone's part that they think no one is celebrating, no one is practicing celibacy. If at least at the dinner table, at some point, it needs to be discussed. So the question is, and the question then becomes, if we're not putting it on profile, then you know you don't discuss over dinner. What you're going to wait? Because men will tell you this. Speak to enough men, they get to a situation where three, whatever, four, whatever the case, and the situation never comes up until the opportune time where he now initiates or stay, vacation or whatever, and then she hits him with it. And so his point was
I
again,
I think those are people who intentionally are being deceptive. That's
well,
just my
again,
opinion because
whatever,
somewhere
and
between
that's fine.
your phone conversations and meeting in person, it needs to be discussed. Period.
The right, but what I'm saying is that sometimes, and this is where it leads to the question: if not there, then I'm just of the space that when we talk about, because people also get into this, well, at this age, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that, I don't have time for that. Okay, well, then if you want to save yourself out the gate from the rip of what you're looking for, then state who you are and what you're about as soon as possible. Now, again, a person can decide when they want to express it. Now, they may not put it on a dating profile. They want to express that over the first dinner. Great. That's totally okay. Whatever works for them. I'm just presenting from speaking to enough men and women that says, had I known this, I wouldn't have went out to dinner with this person, or I wouldn't have asked this person to dinner. Okay, well then, this is just something to consider. So it's not, something that I say everyone again, and just getting to know miles may vary,
Yeah.
experiences may vary, and
People
so that's
people
fine.
are sensitive. I mean, people are doing too much when it comes to that because even say that, this is just me.
Hmm.
Like it's just me and the way that I think. If I went on a dinner date with someone after we've had a couple of phone conversations, and then at the dinner time is when I choose to expose that, right? And they're looking at it like, "Oh my God, you wasting my time." Like, come on now. We can still have dinner without feeling like, well, a hex is put on my head now because I choose to have a celibate life. I just think people are doing too much. They really are. And when it comes to like, I don't know. I have a lot to say about it that I'm not even going to get into it, but I just think just think it's doing too much because if a person chooses to expose that after the first or the second date, I think it's their right. I'm not saying that you expose it when y'all 4 months into the relationship. Absolutely not. You don't do it that way. But if you're one or two dates in, you don't know where this is gonna go. You don't know because you don't. It's almost like telling somebody your most intimate details because that's part of them. Like a celibacy journey. If a person is really on a celibacy journey, that's true to them, right? They choose to express that to someone, and I feel 1 or 2 dates in, one or two. And what I mean by one or two is that we've done one date, we're considering a second date. We haven't went on a second date yet, but we're considering. That's the perfect time to tell someone. Then that way they've met you in person, they've met you and had a conversation with you, you went on the date. So now they're hearing more about who you are. So then that way they get to decide, well, is this too much for me to do on second date, or am I still interested in getting to know this person? I don't think it's something that should be said on date one or prior to date one. I think it's official. I mean, I think it's a great time to say it between dates one and two. That's just my opinion.
Right. And you know what? That's fine. Again, I wish I could remember the two podcasts I was listening to, because this was something that was a real big discussion amongst men and women on online dating. What is enough and what is too much? There were men and women who were talking about their medical things in terms of they were HIV positive or herpes, things of this nature. Should that be something? Others will say, I am and I have, and others says, no, I'm not going to talk about that, initially. So again, you know, I'm not saying what I am suggesting is the end all be all. If a person feels comfortable in sharing that, great. If they don't feel comfortable sharing that, that's something they want to scare, great.
Okay, okay. Did you stop? You just cut off. Like,
Yeah, for some reason, yeah, I was here. That's something like it went silent. My bad. But I'm just saying, either way is perfect for how that person chooses to put on there. I mean, I speak to enough men, and again, they show me more than enough dating profiles of women that, again, because of something that they disclose, it says, I'm glad I know this now, as opposed to because in the first parts of the profile, everything was great until I saw this. Okay, then still a wonderful person, but this is not for me because of that. So again, when we're in a space where time, as we say, is of the essence, then that may be great for some people. Others, again, it may not. So I leave that up to the individual person. But I'm saying if that is what you're about and you're running into people who are consistently on the opposite journey than you are, then that may be something you would consider. So again, I'm not saying your way is right or my way is wrong or vice versa. I'm just saying I think your direction and my direction is something that one should consider based on their experiences in dating, and especially on online dating.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think all that is just definitely right when it comes to just the individual journey. But before we go, wanted to talk about a post that I did the other day about kissing on the first date. Right? Let's just get into it. I just think it's just like a bonus segment of this
Okay.
episode. What do you feel about kissing on the first date?
I think it's fine if it's there from both people. I remember, I'll give you a perfect example, a personal experience. I remember having a first date with someone, and the conversation even leading up into the date itself was phenomenal. And it truly was by accident that I met this woman. And it was me and the men talking, and then the guy said, hey, well, let's ask, her. And she came in and had a great perspective. And we just, from there, he had to go. He got a phone call. See, he ended up dismissing himself, and it was just me and her talking. Great conversation there. And then asked for dinner. And even up to the conversation leading up to that dinner the next week, I remember having the most incredible time at this Mexican restaurant. And then I walked her to her car. And I remember, I'll never forget as long as I live, I wanted to kiss this woman. I really wanted it just, and she looked at me and she says, Ronnie, you want to kiss me, don't you?
Mhm.
And I'm looking there like, how the hell did she pick this up? Because, here I'm thinking, was I looking like some little creepy dude or whatever? And then she says, I want to kiss you too. And so we kissed on the first date.
Yeah.
And that was one of two times that has ever happened to me. But the other times, it was just something that, although it may have been there, because men get to that place. I still believe sometimes men get to there quicker than women do. Um, to hear some women today now, it's like they're the ones taking the initiative. Again, I'm just repeating what they say. But no, I if it's there, it's there. And then, funny enough, I've heard experiences where it has happened on the first date, and the world just came crashing down. It's like, oh God, this guy's a horrible kisser. I can't continue on with this, or she's a terrible kisser, and that happens. Kissing is very important to me, very important to me. So we talk about sex. Yes, the sex has to be on point. Everything, but also kissing. I love to kiss. So, no, kissing is important. So, whether it be the first date, the second date, or whatever, but you're talking about the first date, I think I'm okay with it, but I don't think it happens as often as, many people would either like it to happen or it does happen, because there's still some kind of sorting out to do in a man's mind and in a woman's mind, especially if he's intentional, because we really don't want to be seen as that this is all that we're looking to get. So even if we feel like it, we still kind of pull back because, we want to make sure that we don't mess up what we feel is a good impression, especially if she's agreed to a second date. Did that answer the question?
Okay. Well, I took a poll on my Instagram, and there were a total of 335 people that responded to the poll. And out of the poll, 43% said yes, that they believe in kiss on the first date. So that equated to about 143 people. And then 57% people of the people, which was 192 people, said that they do not kiss on the first date. And so, we're different, 14%. And I'm with you on it. I believe that it's one of those things where if it happens, it happens for some people. And what I mean by that is that if it's one of those things where the urge is there, I figure why not. But then I also know that some people are very, very serious about in terms of kissing. Like
Yes.
they believe that is such a
Yes.
thing that they're willing to have sex with a person before they kiss a person.
That is true.
And
Absolutely.
I
I'm
don't
glad you.
understand that to save my life, but it is
Yes.
what it is.
Yes.
I feel, I mean, like I said, it is what it is because they feel like, you're swapping, spitting, and all. I'm like, but when you're having, you're doing the same thing, like, yeah, but you're using this, and I'm like, but still, it's intimate. You're vulnerable when you're in that position. You know what I mean? But people say that they will to have sex with a person quicker than they will kiss a person.
On 3 different occasions, I've had women tell me that, Ronnie, before I kiss you, I would rather do. I mean, and they were very clear and explicit in what they do sex before kissing. To them,
Mm-hmm.
that was the final frontier. To
Yeah.
me, logically, made no damn sense to me. And even today, as I research that from time to time, and again, the scientists did clarify this when you look at the biological part of that and where it hits in the brain and things of this nature. So, okay, from a scientific space, I can get it. These women didn't cross me as they really studied science that deeply, or physiology or biology, but you just respect and honor that. But I do know
For
kissing.
me,
But when you think about it, if kissing is important to you, then there you go.
kissing is one of those things where it lets me know it's like confirmation if I'm attracted to a person or not. So for me, I'm okay with kissing on the first date if I feel it, because then that means that I'm attracted to that person. Because if I don't, then that means that I don't feel it. I have to feel it to be moved. And so I'm either way with it. I think that people I personally don't look at kissing as a like it's just so intimate, but I do use it as a gauge. You know what I mean? As a gauge.
See, to me, kissing is intimate. I take kissing very, very seriously.
Yeah,
Very seriously.
if I'm kissing somebody, that means that I'm attracted to them. It
Yeah.
just it just it just all way from there. Now, if I'm not kissing on them, that means I'm not attracted to them. So for me, whether it's the first date or the fifth date, if I kiss on them, that means I'm attracted to them. And if I kiss on them, and I don't feel something, then that means that I'm not going to be. I'm not. Yeah, it's a whole vibe for me. I have to feel it on
Yeah,
different.
that's what women usually say.
And
Yeah.
so sometimes kissing is literally a gauge for me. In other words, it's like one of those things where, okay, if I'm trying to see if this is true or if it's not true, if I feel this or I don't feel this. So for me, it's a gauge, and
Yeah.
I'm a very good kisser. So, I mean, I don't kiss everybody, but I kiss enough folks. And I
Well,
just,
no, I get it. I mean, there's times I want to kiss someone, but just didn't, because I'm gauging other parts of that because again, I've had great sex, great kissing, and everything else hits the skids. So for me, I take kissing so seriously that if I feel it, doesn't necessarily mean I always act on it. Usually, I'm if I pull back or I'm real cool about it, it's because there's some other parts or aspects of this person I'm still trying to discover. Because for you to your point, confirmation.
Mhm.
So if everything else lines up and I'm feeling it, then now we're talking the kissing. But even
Yeah,
when I do feel it and I'm
absolutely.
attracted to that person, I'm willing to I'm willing to forego that experience at that point because there's still some other things that I'm trying to discover within that person. So again, to each his own, and I wish each and everyone well. And thanks for chiming in on Yashika's post. That's a damn good post, I have to say. Good question.
Yeah, absolutely. That was good. That was on my IG, and that went well. I'm sure there'll still be some ones, and there was some comments that was made, up under the post, or people DM me a few things or whatever. But I love the engagement, so I definitely like to hear the feedback from those who see the post or whatever. But anyway, Ronnie, is there anything that you would like to say before we leave after we've been discussing celibacy while dating? And as a little extra bonus, we talked about kissing on the first date.
I
So this,
just want to let the people know to again tune in. You can go to Ronnie and Yashika on Instagram. You can also now a new website. We're doing another platform, which we're now going to Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, and you go to datingdiscussionspodcast.com. That's datingdiscussionspodcast.com. We're still uploading content and getting that in the other area. So we are expanding. And you're going to see a new Patreon page that's coming in for. So we've got a lot of great goodies, but also the dating discussions, Ronnie and Shika dating discussions on Facebook, as well as the artists of dating, as you'll see the many reels that the level of the Yashika as well has on Instagram and I believe on Facebook as well. And you can find me on resultswithronnie.com, and you can find both Yashika and I at datingdiscussions.com if you're looking for some consultation or coaching and concerning making sure your dating is to your liking and to the pace that is not overthinking it and making it harder than it has to be, like so many other people are doing, unfortunately. That's what I wanted to
yeah,
share.
absolutely. And that was everything. And so, Ronnie, I thank you. And for those of you who catch us on a replay, make sure you hashtag replay. Let us know that you've been here. And just as Ronnie said, be sure to like and subscribe and share and go over to. And if you're not following us on YouTube, go over to YouTube and follow us.
Yes, yes. How could I forget YouTube?
And leave a comment. We'll see people view the video. And so sometimes comment or the likes or the dislikes, whatever, doesn't match with the amount of views. So let's just get some consistency, please. All right, Ronnie, take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you on the next live.
Talk to you
Bye.
later. Talk to you later, Shika. Good night, everybody.
Good night.